Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the mind of a philosopher who, and this is no exaggeration, basically built the foundation of Western thought. And you know what? It all started with a single, devastating event, an injustice that sparked a question that would change the world forever. So we have to start here, with these words from Plato's teacher, Socrates. Now, for Socrates, this wasn't just some catchy phrase, it was his entire way of life. And for living by it, for constantly questioning everything and everyone, well, he was made to pay the ultimate price. I want you to just try and picture the scene. We're in the heart of the world's very first democracy, and a 70-year-old man is on trial. What was his crime? Well, officially, it was things like impiety and corrupting the youth. But unofficially, he was just asking way too many uncomfortable questions and making some very powerful people look very foolish. For his star student, Plato, this was just an impossible situation to wrap his head around. I mean, the wisest, most decent man he'd ever known was just legally executed by the very state he had served his entire life. This single question, how could this happen? It would haunt Plato and launch him on a quest that would define his entire life's work. Okay, let's really dig into this moment because it completely shattered Plato's world. To get the philosopher, you first have to get the injustice that created him. So, look at this. The first vote was unbelievably close. We're talking about a jury of 500 people, a tiny swing of just 30 jurors, and Socrates would have walked free. His fate was literally on a knife's edge. But what happens next is what sealed the deal. Instead of, begging for mercy, Socrates basically doubles down. He argues that he actually deserves a reward for his service to the city. For the jury, that defiance was just too much. He didn't just lose the trial. He totally sealed his own fate by refusing to back down from his principles. So, as you can imagine, Plato was devastated, and frankly, probably fearing for his own safety. So he fled Athens. And this started a journey, not just across the Mediterranean Sea, but a journey into the very nature of reality itself, all because he needed an answer. For over a decade, Plato was basically a philosophical nomad. He traveled all over, he studied, he was searching for a kind of truth, a kind of knowledge that couldn't be twisted by politics or, swayed by an angry mob. His journey led him to mathematics and, most importantly, to this group of thinkers called the Pythagoreans. And the Pythagoreans, they gave him this incredibly powerful new tool. It was the idea that this messy, chaotic physical world we all see, it's just a shadow of a higher, more perfect reality. A reality made of pure mathematical truths that you can only get to through reason. For Plato, this was it. This was the breakthrough he'd been looking for. So, armed with this totally revolutionary new way of looking at things, Plato finally returns to Athens. But he wasn't just there to teach anymore. He was there to build his answer to that haunting question. He was ready to design a blueprint for a perfectly just world. And this right here is the heart of his solution. Plato basically argued that reality is split in two. You've got the physical world we all experience with our senses, which he saw as a world of imperfect copies, of shadows. But then beyond that lies the real world, the world of forms. This is a perfect, unchanging place of ideal concepts, like the perfect idea of justice itself, or beauty, or goodness, that we can only grasp with our minds. The way he explained this was with his super famous Allegory of the Cave. He said, most of us are like prisoners who've been chained up our whole lives, just mistaking shadows on a wall for what's real. The philosopher is the person who breaks free, journeys up into the bright light of the real world, that's the world of forms, and finally sees the truth. But, and this is key, the journey doesn't stop there. True justice demands that the philosopher go back down into the darkness to try and enlighten everyone else, even if it's dangerous. This whole theory became the foundation for his masterpiece, The Republic. In it, he describes this perfect city where justice isn't just a set of laws. It's about everyone performing their proper role in harmony. So who gets to rule? Not the most popular person, not the richest. Nope, it has to be the wisest. The Philosopher Kings, the ones who have seen the truth and come back from the cave. And, in a really revolutionary move for his time, he argued that women could absolutely be rulers too. So you have to wonder, what happened when Plato tried to take this ideal blueprint and bring it into the real world? Could a perfect city actually be built? In a word, disaster. It was a total mess.
He traveled to a place called Syracuse in Sicily to teach a young tyrant, hoping he could mold him into a real philosopher king. The attempt was a catastrophic failure that ended with Plato being thrown in prison and almost sold into slavery. Yeah, he learned a very hard lesson. Brute force rarely listens to reason. But here's the twist. That political failure led directly to his greatest, most lasting success. He realized he couldn't build a perfect city himself, but maybe he could build a place dedicated to creating the kind of minds that might one day lead one. And so he founded the Academy. And what an institution it was. The academy that Plato founded would operate, get this, continuously for 916 years. To this day, it is still the longest-running institution of higher learning in all of human history. Just incredible. Through the academy and his amazing writings, Plato's questions and his methods for answering them, they became the very operating system for Western thought. I mean, nearly every single major philosophical, political, and scientific debate for the next 2,000 years has been, in one way or another, a conversation with Plato.
So in the end, Plato's ultimate legacy wasn't a nice, neat set of perfect answers. It was a challenge born from the tragic death of his teacher, handed down through centuries, and it's posed to every single one of us. Are we brave enough to relentlessly question what is just, what is real, and how we ought to live?